All right, folks, it's hockey night. No, wait. It's mentioned in dispatches. I just got hockey on in the background here because I got the Canes beating up on Tampa, which is nice. First game come out of the trade deadline, and the team that didn't make a move is beating the team that made a lot of moves. And Dallas just took a lead on the Oilers. So anybody that really wants to go back and reconstruct exactly when we are recording this can probably do so based on Pavelski scoring a goal against Edmonton as the Canes are winding up their win, against Tampa here at home. So with all of that completely irrelevant non-wargaming content as a lead-in, tonight our buddy Martok is back. Sam, how you doing?
Good, Brent. How are you?
I'm doing all right. At some point, our buddy Bryan's supposed to crash the party, but he is in the process of wrapping up Blood Bowl game, and will be along presently. But he's got some ball to kick first, so we got to wait for that to finish up, and then he'll get here when he gets here. This is one of the cool things about the way the Dragoons have evolved here, a little bit by design. You and I were talking about this earlier.
Yep.
That we're here to enable people's gameplay. Like we want to help you feed your game playing addiction. And to that end, one of the cool things about our Discord is lots of folks are using it for playing games. And so we've got a Blood Bowl tournament going on. I guess a Blood Bowl league tournament competition, whatever. And so that is something that was organized in our forums, and we're using the Discord to play for the live audio visual. That's also the same place that like Hethwill and some other folks have hopped in there and just gotten some pickup games of some OSG stuff. So we've the Discord has worked out fairly cool. And Sam, you're in there pretty regularly. You hang out on Discord with us a bunch.
I do, yes. So try to hit up happy hour if nothing else when Mondays roll around.
Yeah, one of the cool things there is that you are one of the happy hour regulars, and that is nice. So for folks that don't know, aren't on Discord or aren't regulars in our forums, or living on Mars, we don't judge. You want to live on Mars, go live on Mars. Totally cool. Say hi to Deja Thoris for us. We have a happy hour on Discord at 5 p.m. Eastern time. It's a little early for a lot of the continental U.S., but if we go much later, then we lose the opportunity for the Europeans to be able to join in. And we just all kind of hang out, flip on cameras if you feel like flipping on your camera, grab a beverage, and just chat. And it's not always wargaming stuff. We spent a bunch of time talking sports this past week. And so, but it's just an opportunity to hang out and chat. And we call it happy hour. It's gone happy 2 hours in the past.
Yep.
Sam, have you stuck around for a multi-hour one yet?
I've been there for a few when it's gone well past the hour mark. Yes.
Okay, I thought so.
Oh yeah.
So for folks, just because you can't be there like right at 5 when it starts, pop in anyway. Come say hi. Odds are pretty good we're still there and still hanging out and still going. And personally, I would love to like sign off. So right now, I'm helping organize Connections Online, which means that our Monday weekly planning meetings are right after the happy hour for me. So I have to bail out to get to those. It would be really cool to like pop back over after those planning meetings are done and see that happy hour is still going on. That would be kind of neat. So that's your new mission, Sam. Keep happy hour going for an extra hour.
Well, yeah, I'll see what I can do about that.
Dude, I'm giving you a license to drink more beer. I wouldn't think that would be a hard problem to solve.
Well, I was already drinking more beer. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Tonight, we're not here to talk about the Discord, although we could. What we're actually here to talk about is Slytherin has released their new big tentpole 4X game that is Distant Worlds 2.
Yep.
Obviously, the sequel to Distant Worlds.
Distant Worlds universe.
Yeah, probably didn't need to be a math major to put all that together, but there it is. Now, Sam, you are the big 4X space dude over at the Dragoons. Everybody kind of defers to your expertise for good reason. You were also one of the players on our... Well, we had our Space 4X podcast that you were a key part of also, that folks can see the link down below if they want to go back and listen to that one as well. So this is your wheelhouse. This is your shtick. And
it is.
This has been a long-awaited game, which is, it's cool. We love the anticipation building up. It feels like the anticipation never actually is fully fulfilled because there's no way something this long-awaited can live up to all the hype. That said, before we dive into DW2, all that deeply. Talk to us a little bit about the sort of state of the art of current 4X gaming. What are the big franchises out there? How recently have the major releases happened that Distant Worlds 2 is sort of competing against? And then we'll dive into DW2 a little more specific.
Well, oh boy, where to begin? I mean, the one is when it comes to Space 4X games, by far the 800-pound gorilla in the genre right now is Stellaris.
Okay.
Which, as you know, that has been my favorite for the last few years as well.
Yep. You're not alone in that thought. A lot of people love that game.
Yes. And it's I think it's fair to say, too, that Stellaris is Distant Worlds 2's not only most obvious competitor, but I think that's the game that, whether Slytherin outright says so or not, that's the game that they're competing against, that they would love to take down, so to speak. Not that you ever want to take down a game. That's the game that they would love to somehow top if they could.
Yeah, Slytherin wants people spending money on DW2 instead of Stellaris.
Yeah. So. Well, and they're both large scale. We're talking. Both games you can have galaxies of 1,000 stars. Distant Worlds 2 now actually you can have galaxies of like 2,000 stars. They're both somewhat unusually for Space 4X games. Both games are real time as opposed to turn based. But yeah, both huge games, grand scale, and both kind of look. Both kind of have their own storytelling elements, although they do it in different ways.
Okay.
So yes, I mean, Stellaris is that's the most obvious one to talk about or to mention. You've also got the Galactic Civilization series, Galactic Civilizations 3. That one came out in 2015. Galactic Civilizations 4 is currently in beta and is slated to be released later this year. So that's another big one that a lot of people are looking forward to.
Okay.
That game is a little less focused on storytelling and a little more focused on strategy, so to speak, and it's a little bit more of a mechanical game, if you will, or a game built based more on its mechanics than storytelling and role playing aspects.
Okay.
There's the endless space games, which I've admittedly never really been able to get into, but are very, very popular.
Let's not ignore the obvious. Distant Worlds 2 is an update of a previous Distant Worlds game. I mean,
that's where I was going. That's what I was about to mention next. Is Distant Worlds Universe, or which itself was a compilation of Distant Worlds 1 plus its 3 expansions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, not that it's directly competing with that, but that is the same space it's trying to inhabit. That's by design.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Well, yeah, and then Eric Rittens from Slytherin has said that they're trying all along to basically, they weren't trying to reinvent the wheel with Distant Worlds 2. They're basically just trying to create a better Distant Worlds, because the first game, for as cool as it is, no one will really argue that it had its rough edges.
Yeah, which eventually things expand to their rough edges. There's a certain point at which a very tightly polished design of any kind of game eventually gets expanded to the point that it does start to fray a bit. And that applies to computer games as well as tabletop games. At a certain point, the expansions start to overwhelm the game, and you start to kind of scratch your head and wonder, wait, why are we doing this again? And that applies not just to war games, but to general tabletop games. The original Carcassonne and the first 2, maybe 3 expansions were all pretty tight, well-focused expansions. Once they started adding, the dragon and the catapult, it just got silly.
Right.
So I've always been a firm believer that what Space 4X games need are more space hamsters, though, right? Isn't that what every Space 4X game needs, is like a key tentpole feature? You got to have space hamsters, don't you?
Space hamsters. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's what we need. We need more fuzzy opponents to pet instead of trying to blast them out of the sky. That's what we're after. Sorry, I hope you weren't taking a drink when I brought up the space hamsters.
No, I'm good.
Good, because I didn't have to buy you a new keyboard.
So I've got a spare somewhere if I really need it.
All right, so we've got Distant Worlds 2 as the update to Distant Worlds universe. We have Stellaris as the 800-pound gorilla in the room. We've got a couple of the others you've mentioned. In terms of the 4X genre, there's obviously the historical 4X games, which a bunch of us are big fans of. We've talked the Civ series on the podcast before this season. Like, we have several multiplayer Civ games going right now. You guys have some multiplayer games going for the Space 4X ones. What was it that you and Barth and Dave had going?
That's an MP game for Stellaris.
Okay, so
yeah.
I thought so, but I didn't remember for sure. So we've got a couple of these different multiplayer games going out there. For some old school folks, thinking back to the early days of Space 4X games, am I correct in assuming that Master of Orion is still sort of the, it's the game from which all other Space 4X games kind of sprung down the way somewhere, right?
More or less. It's not the absolute first Space 4X game, but it was one of the first, and more importantly, it brought together the various different elements of Space 4X games in such a way that it kind of remains the benchmark, the gold standard of the genre.
Yeah. And the guys who were the design team behind Master of Orion are the ones that coined the 4X term. So we sort of got to give them some props for that too.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
So Distant Worlds here. We've got Distant Worlds Universe, you said, was DW1 plus a couple of updates. A couple of the expansions. I'm sorry. I said updates, I meant expansions.
Yeah.
So as you look at Distant Worlds Universe as sort of a complete package, what were the 2 or maybe 3 standout things that it ended up being able to do really well?
Well, the Distant Worlds, I mean, first of all, part of it was scale, because it was one of the first games to come out that allowed you to play with really big galaxies. Because even the first Distant Worlds game, you could still have galaxies of up to 1,500 stars. Your computer might cry a little bit trying to run the game, but it could do it. And so just the scale alone was fairly unique. On top of that, or rather combined with that, what it made it especially stand out was the private economy in Distant Worlds. How you've got civilian freighters going back and forth, going out to this asteroid or to that moon to mine these materials, bring it back to your home planet or the nearest planet that you've colonized to drop those resources off. And kind of your job as the player is more just to, you're building a military to protect your private economy so that they don't get attacked and destroyed by pirates, and choosing the right planets to colonize, because unlike a lot of Space 4X games, you don't necessarily want to be colonizing every last piece of real estate that you can find. That's actually not the optimal play style.
So you're not just, it's first of all, the expand piece isn't just a universal expand everywhere to everything at all times, but also in terms of the economy, you're more facilitating it than you are micromanaging it. Is that
correct? Yeah. You really don't micromanage the civilian economy at all. It's part of the Distant Worlds. It has like this living galaxy feel. That was and is one of its shticks. That's one of their points of appeal. And you get to watch your civilian ships flying around, and passenger ships will transport people emigrating from one planet to another, or they'll be transporting tourists from one of your planets to a tourist station that you've built somewhere that has fantastic views or something like that. And what you're doing is you're doing on your end, you're using your state funds, partly through taxes and partly through other types of income, to build stations and ships, basically an infrastructure and a military that helps support those things.
As a guy who can spend all afternoon perfectly happy sitting there staring at the same waterfall, the idea of getting on a spaceship for tourist purposes for a nice view just seems a little crazy.
You'll get no argument from me, but it's it's fun watching that passenger ship fly around transporting those people to do that.
Oh, I'm sure it is. as the Distant Worlds game, the original one, Distant Worlds Universe, had a couple of expansions there. Obviously, the usual patches, bug fixes, maybe a slight tweak here and there. Started to get a little long in the tooth. Hey, let's build DW2. One of the big changes, this thing went from 2D to 3D, right?
Correct.
All right. So now that you've played DW2 for a little bit, how good is the 3D? Is it that big of a deal? Is it kind of a yawn? Is it awesome? Does it suck? Does it like you had to go get a new computer to be able to play DW2? So obviously there were some performance issues. But
well, we knew my computer had already had problems before that. That was just kind of the final straw.
Yeah. Problems other than the operator.
Right.
Okay. So talk to us some about the 3Dification of DW2. What has that done for us?
It's good. It's certainly. I mean, yes, the game definitely looks nicer. I think that it's good for the aspects of better atmosphere. Better immersion factor. Was it really worth all the extra time and effort that they put into it? I still don't know if I can answer that question.
All right.
Truly, positive or negative, I don't know that I could tell you yet.
So to be fair, as we are recording this, the game's only been officially released for what, 10 days-ish?
12 days now.
Okay, so 12 days now. And you had a little bit of hands-on time with a pre-release version that Slytherin had made available to us for the website for our coverage, but not a lot of time with it, right?
Right.
So this is all still pretty new in everybody's hands, which is cool.
Yeah.
Everybody got to start somewhere.
Yeah. One thing I will add about the 3D, and which makes it frustrating, and I just posted about it in the forums earlier this evening before our recording session here, which is that something I find frustrating is that with the in-game camera, you cannot pan. You can only basically pan with it as basically horizontally around ships and planets. You can't use them. You can't use the mouse to rotate like above or underneath anything. Which it's like. What was the point of switching to 3D, of adding 3D objects?
Yeah. Is that something? Do we know if that's on the roadmap to eventually get to, or that's just here it is and you'll like it?
No, I don't think they've gotten anywhere near that far. I think they're still busy squashing bugs and trying to fix major technical issues for the people who are still having fundamental problems running the game that they haven't even started thinking that far ahead yet.
Again, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yes. Yeah. You got to fix got to fix the biggest bugs first. Understandable, but yeah, the whole it's like why take the trouble of going to the time and effort to switch to 3D and add these nice looking planets and ships if you won't let us pan around at all angles to look at them in all their glory. It just, like I said, it's a minor gripe as far as things go. It doesn't really affect gameplay per se, but it does seem a bit baffling.
Yeah, that does seem to be suboptimal. But again, it's 12 days old, right? We might get there. We may see some expansion. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
So
I suspect that at some point they will release the camera restrictions or enable it so that you can pan in whatever direction, because it does seem like a fairly odd limitation. And Eric and Elliot have always been pretty responsive to player feedback. So
yeah. Well, and that is a key point we want to bring up, is that the responsiveness to player feedback has usually been pretty good from these guys.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I know I've seen complaints on both like the Matrix forums and Steam forums. You see the usual accusations that Slytherin released this game or when they did, so that they could start getting the money to roll in right away, and that. Not for a second do I buy that.
Yeah.
Eric and Elliot, who's he's the main developer for the game, like has too much pride in his work. Like there's no way, if they'd had any idea of the technical problems that everyone was going to have when they released this game, they wouldn't have released it. They would have delayed it yet again and put it in a more rigorous play test if they'd known.
Which, yeah, it's long been said that it really doesn't matter how much play testing you do. Somebody's going to find something wrong with it once it gets out into the real world. And having worked on a variety of different game projects over the years, both on the professional and the commercial side, I wholeheartedly agree. There was a good quote one time somewhere that's been attributed to just about everybody that ever worked for SPI at some point or another. But it was, games aren't necessarily released, they just escape.
Yes.
So that's probably true in many digital game cases.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And given, and like you said, Eric and Ellie, I mean, they've been incredibly responsive. So, I mean, they've already put out how many patches in the last week and a half, 2 weeks already.
Yeah.
Just, and they're already in, like, I mean, most of it has been bug fixes. Some of it's already been starting to address other gameplay issues and a few balance issues, which managing to work that in while doing actual bug quashing, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Especially because, those guys haven't slept in 2 weeks.
I suspect it's more like 2 months, but yeah, well, 2 weeks for sure.
Well, I mean, it's been about 2 weeks since it was released as we are recording this, probably 3 weeks by the time people hear this. Those guys have got to be running on, caffeine fumes at this point, and whatever their latest sugar rush is.
Yeah.
They're probably snorting pixie sticks at this point just to, keep crunching along.
As the Dragoons proudly charge into their 8th season of Mentioned in Dispatches, we'd like to pause and thank those Patreon supporters who pledged at the regimental patron level. So a heartfelt thanks to Treb Curry, Staggerwing, Patrick Mullen, Mike Quigley, Hethwill Wargames, Patrick Garrity, Robert, Kevin Bertram, and Joseph Knoll for their support of the Armchair Dragoons and enabling us to bring you the best wargaming content we can. You too can sign up as a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/armchairdragoons.
I'm thinking the Blood Bowl game might have gone into overtime or something, man. Those dudes are still going. Crazy. Yeah, dude, we're going to have to yell at Bryan when he finally gets here. Assuming we're going to have to stay on this podcast until he gets here, Sam. We have to find things to talk about. So, speaking of which, talk to us a little bit about DW2 here. Are there, in fact, space hamsters?
Not space hamsters. There are space rats.
Space rats. Okay.
Yes, there's a race called the Tekin. They're one of the 7 races that are currently playable in Distant Worlds 2, and as you might imagine, they are also pack rats, and they're kind of good at engineering. They're kind of good at trade. They're not. I believe they're not the brightest, meaning that the research rate is a little bit slower, but they're fairly friendly. If you get them on their good side early, odds are that they'll stay your friends throughout the game.
Okay.
So not necessarily that not sure how much you'd want to pet them, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
So,
I generally try not to pet rat-like space aliens when one happens across them, perhaps while out on an afternoon stroll. I tend to keep my hands in my pockets and just look at the ground and speed up a little and go past them.
So you don't see them. You're not there.
Yeah. So what are some of the other significant races that players might get a chance to either encounter or perhaps take the role of as they're playing with DW2 here?
Well, my current game is as the Xenox, who are they're a feline-like race. They're big into accruing ancient knowledge about the past.
Okay.
Because the Distant Worlds universe does have its own lore, and it has to do with like this ancient evil that came and basically attacked the galaxy at some point. There are rumors that the insectoid races may or may not have allied with this ancient evil. If you bring it up to those insectoid races, they get kind of angry about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and one of those insectoid races, the Bhaskara, are currently playable. They are insanely aggressive, deceitful, and untrustworthy. So they're perhaps fun to play. Might be fun to play as. Probably wouldn't want them as your neighbors, though.
All right. Speaking of people you wouldn't want as your neighbors.
Aha!
Ain't that the truth? Can you hear me?
No, we can't hear you at all.
Okay, good.
Now we know to answer that you're asking.
Yeah, you're just a figment of our imaginations.
What's going on, guys?
So here's the important question: who won the Blood Bowl game?
Oh my! I am highly angry at that Blood Bowl game. I was basically playing against a person who had no idea what they were doing, and I still wound up. It was a tie, 2-2. Half my team is injured. The way he scored was just ridiculous. They basically gave him the ball on the 2-yard line, and he just walked it right in. It was a fiasco.
It's kind of like the secretary in the office pool that wins the March Madness brackets by just picking the coolest uniform colors, right?
Exactly like that. If it wasn't for my quarterback, the biscuits, slinging a like an 80-yard pass downfield and a Hail Mary, I would have lost. So
all right, look, my school played the biscuit school for several years. He can't throw the ball 80 yards.
I believe you. He was North Carolina, right?
Yes, yeah. So while this isn't necessarily 100% true, it's gonna be really close. I think he might be the only quarterback Mac Brown ever had get drafted from North Carolina. He had quarterbacks drafted at Texas, obviously. But I think he's the only quarterback Mac Brown ever had drafted at North Carolina.
When did Mac Brown go to Texas?
96, 97. No, it was a little later than that because 97, 98, he was still at UNC. So it was late 90s, early 2000, 99 maybe.
Okay.
His first year there. But it actually caused a stink in the early 90s when ECU spit out Jeff Blake and David Garrard and Marcus Crandall all kind of back to back. There was like one other dude in between there. Steve Logan, who was either the offensive coordinator or the head coach at ECU at the time, part of his recruiting pitch, and he used to actually openly say this on the radio with radio shows around here, was, hey, look, if you want to get a high-powered, recognizable school on your resume and you want to be on TV a bunch, that's fine. Go play at UNC. If you want to get drafted and go play in the pros, come to ECU. And Mac Brown took offense to that and called up Steve Logan and tried to chew his butt for it. And Steve Logan said, tell me what I lied about. Look, I've got Jeff Blake and David Garrard both playing in the NFL and Marcus Crandall starting in Canada. Give me your list of pro quarterbacks, Mac Brown.
There you go.
Look, you don't have any. Tell me what I lied about. So, all right. Enough of our football digression there. So, Bryan, Sam was talking a little bit about some of the details of DW2 as a game, some of the things it allows you to do. We were talking a little bit about some of the races in the game. You've played the game for a little bit yourself now. What's your overall impression of Distant Worlds 2, particularly as it relates to other Space 4X games?
I have no idea. It's so hard to get a grip on this game. The first thing you do when you start off is trying to figure out what to automate and what not to. The first time I started playing it, the computer was doing everything. I'm like, well, this is kind of dumb. Then I read a player's guide, and it basically said, when you're starting a game, things to select for automation and so forth. So the game that I've restarted is halfway enjoyable. There is just so much detail to it. It's hard to know where to even start as far as the game goes. I'm trying to just put my focus on the military aspects and, moving fleets around and so forth while letting most of the credits that I'm earning and stuff is just being done by automation. I pretty much get little boxes that come up and say, I need a mining station here. Okay, go ahead, do that. So it is so vast a game, trying to get your head wrapped around all the mechanics it's a chore.
Yeah. So the wargamer likes blowing stuff up with the military.
Sure. And like I said, I'm getting all these resources and everything, and I'm letting there's just so many resources, in order to build things that I'm not sure who in their right mind would want to be the one to actually micromanage, all that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody out there, but not many.
Well,
go ahead, Sam.
Well, it's not supposed to be, especially the resource gathering part. There's a reason it's all automated. That aspect especially. Otherwise you lose your damn mind.
Absolutely. I found it interesting how you have your own military fleet, but then in the background there's this whole civilian fleet that you really don't control going on that's transporting all the materials and stuff like that. I thought that's pretty neat. Watching them go around doing their thing.
So, yeah, no, absolutely. And as I was telling Brad, that's kind of one of the big appeals about the Distant Worlds games. Both the first one and the second one here is the private civilian economy is completely independent of the the player. You can subtly influence it to a certain degree, but I mean, for the most part, yeah, like you said, it's doing its own thing.
Yeah, it's pretty neat to just see the way it works. I haven't played it enough to actually understand how, other than just putting mining satellites and stuff like that out, how to actually influence anything as far as that goes.
Yeah. Well, and if you do, by all means, share with the rest of us.
Well, and as far as the military thing, I'm building ships and I'm building fleets. One of the things you run into this problem with all these games is you really don't know when you first start playing whether, well, is that adequate, the fleet I have, or am I going to get stomped? Who knows? So I'm kind of enjoying that. One of the pirate factions in particular has a battleship, and I can't even build battleships yet. I'm not even close to that. But it's got one single battleship that's just terrorizing one of my colonies. And there's not a whole lot I can really do about anything about it at this point. But I've taken on some pirate factions so forth, and I was successful. I overwhelmed them. Haven't been brave enough to take on one of the other factions yet, but we'll see.
Well, and it could be too, like, some of those. One of the neat things about pirate factions is that they're not always. How do I phrase this? I mean, not only do you not have to engage them militarily, there can be actual benefits to engaging them diplomatically as well. It's not all about just paying them protection money.
Right. I was trying to see if I could actually absorb them into my empire, but I wasn't able to figure out how, or if I don't think I was even able to get their to have them like me enough, so to speak.
Sure, yeah. I don't know if that's possible. I would like it if it was, but yeah, it's like, yeah, I haven't gotten relations high enough with any pirate faction where they'd even think about it anyway.
I find the shipbuilding kind of enjoyable, but one of the problems I noticed is, say you build a ship, okay, you got all the weapons on that you want, looking good. The way research progresses, obviously your ship's going to become obsolete. And if you build your own ship, you have to kind of micromanage it as far as upgrades and stuff. While if you just kind of take the generic ones the computer, spits out at you, it's much easier.
You just hit the refit button or whatever, or refit fleet, and they'll go to the nearest shipyard or whatever and do it.
Yes, but if you make your own ship, if you say your fleet is made up of your own ships, it's not going to know what weapons to upgrade, if that makes any sense.
Right. So, no, but and honestly, that was an issue in the first game too. And I will admit that the more I'm playing this game, while I'm definitely having fun overall, the more I'm playing this game, the fewer quote unquote improvements I'm seeing versus the original.
Well, Sam, before we dive into that, because that's an important thought that I did want to eventually get to, and so you're jumping ahead on me here slightly, but I want to back up to the pirate factions here real quick, because you guys both talked about them some. It sounds as though for someone looking for a frame of reference, somebody like me who's not a major 4X space 4X kind of guy, it sounds to me like they are roughly analogous to the city-states in the Civ series games, in that they are these free agents out there, these independent actors that you sort of have to deal with and account for, but they're not they're not a part of one of the larger empires, one of the larger civilizations. They are these singular things that just sort of pop up here and there and kind of annoy the crap out of you. But it sounds as though they're a little more, a little rougher and a little less diplomatic than the city-states and the historical 4X kinds of games. Am I roughly on track with how those appear and the way they behave?
Yes, well, so there's two types of independent actors, as you put it, Brent, in Distant Worlds 2. One are the pirates. The other are independent colonies or independent worlds.
Okay.
So yeah, you can come across independent worlds that are, inhabited by this race, and it can be inhabited by the same race as the one you're playing as, which, if that's the case, it can make it a lot easier towards, it could end up being a situation where that independent colony could end up joining your empire.
So, not knowing that there were independent worlds out there, I would revise and say that those sound more like the city-states from the historical 4X games, where the pirates are behaving more like the barbarian tribes in the historical 4X game.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Probably busy agreeing with that statement as he's listening to this, so all is right with the world.
Yeah, I would say that with this caveat, which is that the pirates in Distant Worlds 2 are their own genuine entities, and they do have their own uses besides just existing to be destroyed to clear out a threat. They can certainly serve that purpose, but they can do useful things for you too.
Well, I think that's what ended up happening with the barbarian tribes and some of the Civ expansions, that now they will have their own motivations and behaviors, and you have the ability to negotiate with them and to do some other things. So it sounds like there are similar refinements, just in a slightly different genre of how these guys behave.
So I was wondering if you could do that with the pirates, and I was kind of looking in the negotiating menu, and I didn't see anything really all that clear as far as being able to have them attack another faction or anything like that. And I wasn't sure if I had them attack the faction, whether the other faction would be mad at me for having the pirates attack them. So, but that's good to know that you can use them in that way.
Depends on how well you cover your tracks, right?
Which is just, you used to be able, you could do that with Pirates in Distant Worlds universe. You could have them attack another empire, and it could come out things could fall out where that other empire could find out that you were the one sponsoring those pirates, and well, there would obviously be just a teensy bit of diplomatic fallout as a result.
Just a teensy bit, though, not a lot.
Yeah. So I do find it interesting that apparently that is no longer an option with pirates in the sequel here.
Oh, it's not. So I wouldn't be able to. That's why I didn't see it when I was looking at the negotiating menu.
Well, it's. I'm not sure. I've not played the game yet enough myself to have discovered nearly anywhere near all of its ins and outs.
Yes.
So, but I just know I've not come across the option either. Now, whether that is because my relations with other empires have not been fully established enough, or my relations with that pirate faction are not integrated enough or high enough, where they would come to me and say, "Hey, we know you don't get along with this empire. We could cause some trouble for them for the right amount of credits."
Right.
I sure hope that option is still in the game under the right set of circumstances, because it was so nice to have in Distant Worlds universe. I don't know how useful it was, but it added a nice amount of flavor.
Well, I'm going to look right now to see. I'm just going to click on a pirate faction to see.
Well, so in all fairness, Sam, as we had noted earlier on the broadcast, this thing's 2 weeks old, right? Look, the game is not 2 weeks old. Obviously, these guys have been developing this thing for the better part of 5 years.
Right.
But
it came out 2 weeks ago.
This thing's 2 weeks old, right? It's been gestating for 5 years. It's been alive for 2 weeks. Even if that's not a viable option this very moment, that doesn't mean it won't ever be. And It may be one of those things that, in the interest of let's make sure it actually runs on all the advertised hardware, might be slightly higher in the coding priority than, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you can pay off some pirates? So
yes,
I think there are some understandable, differences in the approach at the moment.
So this is when I have the pirate menu up here, and there's nothing that comes out and says anything, attack such and such. Now, there is a thing that says contact another empire. I have no idea what the hell that means. You can, it says you can contact, it gives you a list of all the different empires to contact. Why you would want the pirates to contact another empire? Is that code for attack the empire? I don't know.
Probably not.
I suppose it depends on the kind of contact you want them to make.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I probably it's probably contingent upon if both you and a pirate faction both have contact with a certain empire, then the pirate can probably eventually offer to attack that empire on your behalf, should you so desire.
Okay.
This is Bryan. He would so desire.
I would. Well, and now if I can do that, I'm kind of kicking myself for getting rid of the pirate factions that I had in my territory here.
Yeah. So I'm usually I'm usually choosy about which pirate factions I get rid of. Like if there's some if their protection fee is reasonable, and they've actually provided me I got this technology from them for a reasonable price that they sold to me, or they sold me this map of a nearby system that actually was fairly cheap. That they're offering me good deals on stuff. Maybe I'll keep them around.
Right.
Really out of the goodness of your heart.
Right. Yeah. All kind of depends on how useful they are or not. But yeah, if they're demanding insane amounts of protection money, and or if you buy them protection money, and sometimes they may still they keep threatening you anyway. Like they insinuate that the moment that your current deal is gone, that they're going to go back to attacking your ships and stations. Well, then obviously it's on.
Right.
There is very much a metaphor for romantic entanglements here, right? As long as they're useful to me, I'll keep them around as long as they're providing some value. But as soon as they, start annoying me, I'm kicking them to the curb.
But I got to say that the game, by and large, is, the closest thing I can think of to it is just in my playing is Europa Universalis. There's a lot of things going on, and it's going to take you a long time to figure out how all these things interact and work with each other.
Oh, yes.
I'm watching YouTube videos and reading guides and stuff like that because, and let's be honest, the manual, they even admitted in the manual that they're not going to be able to tell you everything.
No.
So I'm finding a lot of guides and stuff to be the most helpful thing.
So. Distant Worlds Universe had a steep learning curve. It's almost a learning cliff, and Distant Worlds 2 is honestly, I would say it's almost the same. It's the UI is improved and it makes things a little bit easier to find stuff and get around, but
it's lived down to its predecessor, huh?
Yeah. If you're like Boyer, who's got a paradox background, that helps.
Yeah.
All right. So, Sam, as you've started playing with DW2, obviously, a bunch of different kinds of races. We talked a little earlier about the space rats. We talked some about the elven cats or whatever the heck we want them to be. Of the ones that you've had experience with in the previous Distant Worlds games, did they bring them all forward? Are they all still present? How did they tweak them? Did they just punt and start over? What did they do for bringing the races? Because you mentioned this is a galaxy with a deep lore behind it. Did they keep it when they launched DW2, or did they just start from scratch?
So the short answer to the question is yes, they kept it. They brought everything forward.
All right, good.
So yeah, the lore, the base, it's basically the same stories before. Even though only 7 of the races are currently playable, all 20 are still in the game. You can just only play as 7 of them right now.
So you could still run into the other 13.
Right, yeah. You can still run into the Kiadans, who are another mammalian race, or the Wakaras, they sort of look like someone with a Cthulhu mask.
All right.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. So it's almost like the early editions of Street Fighter, right? There were 5 characters you could play, but there's 20 characters in the game.
Yeah.
So
well, let me compare Distant Worlds 2 to the other game that I played the most of kind of this genre is Endless Space 2, and that's no slouch either as far as complexity. As of right, it's too early into DW2 to actually really make a true comparison, but I would say I did enjoy Endless Space 2 a little more at this point. Probably has to do with familiarity, obviously, but we'll see eventually.
All right. So yeah, just because it's a little too early to be making comparison doesn't mean we're not going to do it, right? We're totally going to make those comparisons.
I hate to do it, but because like I said, it's not really fair to DW2 for me to really say ES2 is better at this point. There was a lot of things I didn't like about ES2. Here's the problem with all these 4X games. Once you're expand enough, it becomes, you start to lose fun as you become more powerful because you have more to pay attention to, more, just little things to take care of. It seems like this is going to, my empire is not too big in DW2. I only have 2 colonies. So once I start to get more, I'm starting to think to myself, well, things are kind of frantic with 2. What's it going to be like once I get 5, 6, 7,
Right. Well,
Frantic herd.
yeah, it's a fair question. First of all, it seems like some people are just masochists and love micromanaging all that stuff. I don't quite understand how or why, but you
Yeah,
do.
not I, said the Brant.
Yeah, no, nor I. I'll be honest. I've seen a lot of complaints about Distant Worlds 2 so far, where it's like people say to talk about the game that the game basically just plays itself, and they feel like they have no input. Whereas I am happy to let almost everything be automated, and I just dip my hand in every once in a while. Like pretty much the only thing that I run manually right now is research.
Okay. Well, see, that's what I came across this guide that helps you. He makes some good points as far as what he sets up as far as automation and that. And I pretty much copied directly from what he had set up. Because like I said, the first time I played the game, I was literally going, well, the AI is doing everything for me. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the power of DW2. That's kind of the great thing about it is you can customize this as much as you want to. But the hard part is trying to figure out how to customize that, and it's going to take a lot of playthroughs before you realize, well, okay, I want to be doing that, I don't want to be doing that, and so forth.
Which aspects do you want to micromanage do you want to manage yourself?
Right.
Well, and let's be honest, though, that's not unique to DW2. You would have a hard time naming a 4X game for which that is not the case.
No, but
whether it's a space 4X game or a historical 4X game, that is, Bryan, you mentioned the EU comparisons for a historical 4X one. Man, the level of micromanageability in the EU games of what you can do yourself versus what you can automate is a pretty high amount of manual overrides should you choose to use them.
Yes.
I'm very familiar with the Civ series games going all the way back to Civ 1 in the early 90s.
Yep.
And you had the ability to specify, I want this person working this tile for this purpose, even, almost 30 years ago at this point. So that kind of granularity was always there if you wanted it. I guess the question now becomes sort of how far in the other direction do you swing away from micromanaging in order to make the game playable but still enjoyable. And it sounds like we're trying to find that balance, right?
That's exactly it. The thing about DW2, it's a database that's constantly going, and you got ships flying around, but there are so many numbers and stuff and screens where you're looking at numbers, just looking at your ships, and just one weapon's going to have like 20 different factors that go into this one weapon, range, damage, and a myriad of other stuff.
Yes.
It really can become overwhelming.
Yeah, the only ones you care about are range and damage. Who cares about this stuff?
Exactly.
All right, so we've talked some about kind of the things we like, the things that, Sam, you mentioned a couple of the headaches. Bryan, you mentioned a couple of things that are still mystifying you that are gonna take some time to figure out. And I think, again, that is a fairly universal thing with any kind of 4X game, whether it's a space one or a historical one. These are complex animals that take time to understand. And the goal for the designers is to make it fun for you to play while still trying to figure out how to play well. And I think different games do have variable success at trying to do that. As you look at DW2 right now, again, knowing that we're just barely 2 weeks into its lifespan, Sam, you mentioned, in terms of things you would like to see added, a fairly cosmetic one is you want the 3D view. You want that camera to be able to move in more than one plane of motion. You want to be able to actually have a 3D game. So that's something that's on your wish list. What's another something that's on your wish list there, Sam?
Better, I don't know if it's better AI automation for fuel use. I mean, I've experienced it, and I've seen complaints, including just today in the forums about, you see you run into so many instances of ships running out of fuel when they shouldn't be.
Well, it's
So
funny.
the price of fuel is very high, and it's stifling your economy and its scarcity.
Well, things like this is
Could have possibly imagined having to deal with such a thing.
like you'll discover this old derelict ship, but it's very powerful, so you want to add it to your fleet. And so, but it's almost out of fuel. So what it does is instead of going like say only a little bit out of its way to the nearest mining station that has fuel in it, it instead tries to go directly to the fleet that you've added it to, even though it's almost out of fuel, thus causing it to go at only a fraction of its nominal speed.
I think I found a remedy to this, because I was running into the same problem. First off, I wasn't exactly sure what the fuel ships do. I was attaching them to fleets and so forth, but I was finding they would go into battle with the fleets. Never a good idea to bring the fuel ship into the battle with you. Right. But here's the one thing I did. I kind of spammed. I built like 10 of them, okay? And I just put them on automatic. And now they will go wherever I have a ship run out of fuel. They will go out there automatically and fill them up. So that's the way I'm dealing with that right now. Which brings up the point. I have no idea how far these fleets are, able to go before they run out of fuel. It's just a number to me. It says my one ship has 200 fuel. Okay, well that's great.
Yeah.
How far can I go with 200 fuel? Is there a button I can push that shows me the range or something like that? I don't know.
When you click on a ship or a fleet, there should be like a circular dotted line around it that shows its range.
Okay, that's what that is. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That was some unintentional hilarity, but that's okay. We'll allow it.
Well, now is that a one-way trip, or is that so I can get there, but am I going to be able to get back?
That's, as I say, that's just showing how far it can get on its current fuel supply.
Okay.
So no, it's not a one. So yeah, that's on a one-way trip essentially.
Brian, depending on where you're going, you may not want to come back.
Oh, this is true. Well, my other question is, so I was attaching fuel ships to my fleets. How many should I attach?
All of them.
One,
they draw the fire away from your actual capital ships you need to win the battle.
There you go.
Ryan, bearing in mind that I've not played Distant Worlds 2 yet to know the answer any more than you do, I do know the Distant Worlds universe, and I would be willing to bet that the answer is similar here. Typically in Distant Worlds universe, one fuel ship per fleet was typically enough. Typically.
Okay.
So now if you have like an extremely large fleet, then two, yes. But generally speaking, one fuel ship, as long as you're keeping it out of danger, is sufficient.
Well, Bryan has an entire space fleet of muscle cars. And so he's got these Camaro class battleships and these Trans Am class cruisers that burn twice as much fuel as anyone else. And their engines primarily convert fuel to noise. That's their key purpose.
That'll be in the expansion.
Yeah. So, I should say, for all that I'm grumbling about fuel issues in Distant Worlds, that's one thing it definitely has up over Stellaris, which, Ryan, you didn't hear this, you don't know this since you weren't here earlier, but that is my current go-to Space 4X game.
Okay.
One thing that Distant Worlds has always had over Stellaris is the fact that there is, you have to figure and feel that the game has logistics.
Right.
Yep. And yeah.
Would you say that Stellaris is EU4 in space?
Yes.
Europa Universalis?
As much as any game can be, yes.
I've heard that, and that was one of the reasons I never really got into it, just because of the fact that I'm playing EU4, I'm buying the expansions for EU4. Do I really need another EU4 in space?
Yes, you need space hamsters in your life. Of course you do. What kind of dumb question is that?
So I never got into that. Like I said, Endless Space 2 is kind of what I got into, which I have found enjoyable. It's got a lot of really unique mechanisms in the game, such as singular missions and stuff like that. It's interesting.
Yeah. So Brian, knowing that you don't have a ton of time into DW2 just yet, is there something that's really jumped out at you as a glaring thing you want to change? Is it the way in which you manage the fuel ships, or is there something else that you're thinking, God, if they could get this one thing right, I would love this so much more?
Well, it's hard to say because it could just be something I'm missing, like the fuel ships. Hell if I know how many are supposed to go in a fleet. Matter of fact, I don't even know how big my fleets are supposed to be.
So in this case, you need a help guide.
Well, it's all going to. This is the type of game like EU4 and Stellaris and Endless Space 2, all these type of games where the reward is you playing it and learning, and the more you learn, I mean, in order to really get absorbed into this, you're just going to have to keep playing and studying how to play this game in order to actually know what the hell you're doing. And it's going to be it's a hell of a learning curve. It's going to take, if I played this for the next 2 weeks, I'd probably get just DW2, I'd probably get a good handle on what's going on and what I should do. But at this point, we're still just stumbling along trying to figure things out. Like I said, I got 14 ships in a fleet. Is that good? I don't know. We'll find out.
Not when you run into a 22-ship fleet, it's not.
Well, exactly.
As long as you keep running into 6-ship fleets, you're probably doing okay.
This is true.
All right, we're a little over an hour here as we are recording this. By the time I edit out myself saying we'll get under that hour, and so that's cool. Bryan, I know this is a bit of a shorter appearance for you, but we were chattering for a bit while you were busy, laying down dead in a Blood Bowl game. So with that in mind, Bryan, you've been playing around with DW2 for 2 weeks. What is your general summation? You mentioned EU4, sort of Europa Universalis in space. That's probably not a wholly undeserved descriptor. What do you think of the game generally so far, and what are you looking to do next in the game? What's the next thing you're going to try to do and see if you can pull off?
Well, I just colonized my first planet other than the one that, I started at. And I was wondering if that was ever going to happen, because apparently that is a long process. It took a long time and it was from one of those singular planets, if you will, okay. Kind of the city state that I was able to negotiate with them and colonize their place. And it took a while. I'm enjoying the game overall. Like I said, I think it's going to become more rewarding as I know what the hell I'm doing. And there's going to be I'm just going to keep, reading the guides and stuff and watching some YouTube videos to see, what I'm missing and what I can do better. As far as what I'm going to do next in the game, I don't know. Just keep trying to expand.
Something completely accidental, no doubt.
Yes.
Sam, final word is yours. What's the biggest thing you like so far, and then what's the next thing you're gonna see if you can try to do in the game somehow?
Biggest thing I like so far. I realize that unfortunately everyone else has had my experience, but given this is going to sound very dull, but I'm really liking the game's performance, technical wise.
Okay.
It runs for me it has run very smooth. The load times are short. There's not really been much lag, which when you're playing in these galaxies with 2,000 solar systems, and each solar system has like a minimum of a dozen planets and moons and God knows how many asteroids, which, by the way, that's something else that Stellaris can't do, not in the same way, or doesn't do. It's and the fact that the game can do that, and with all the ships flying back and forth, it's honestly impressive.
So you got a lot to chew on.
Yeah, and the fact that it is in 3D.
Yeah. Yeah. So with a lot to chew on, what's the next bone you're going to chew on? What's the next thing you're gnawing on?
Well, probably trying to get myself into a good proper war at some point. It's something that I've been studiously avoiding. But, my play style is a little bit more of can't we all just get along?
A little more of a hippie, huh?
Yeah. Well, and I like building up my industry, my infrastructure, and I really get a kick out of watching those mining and research stations slowly get built across my solar system and neighboring solar systems, and seeing the civilian ships going back and forth and watching that get built up. If it wasn't for the fact that I didn't also like watching ships blow each other up, I'd probably be a big fan of games.
Well, there's weird people everywhere, so there's no reason you can't be one of them. I know this seemed a little disjointed going through DW2, but that's cool. It's still very new. It's still very fresh. There's still people figuring out what they're doing with it, like Bryan, and there's still people that kind of had an idea what to go for, but are still figuring out how to do it, which is Sam and plenty of others. We do have that DW2 thread in our forums is over a couple hundred posts at this point. All sorts of opportunity for folks to jump in and chat and offer some help with each other. And hey, look, if you want to talk to us about writing your own personal little AAR or strategy guide for DW2, please shoot us a note, send up a flare, and we'll see if we can't find a way for you to contribute some of your own hard-won knowledge to the body here at the Armchair Dragoons. Guys, thank you very much for being here this evening and for being able to pop in and join us. So Bryan, this is 2 weeks in a row, dude. Thanks.
Has this ever happened?
For you being 2 weeks in a row, no. It took us 7 years to get 1 week in a row with you.
Well, I guess you're here every week, so I'm not a trailblazer by any.
No. We have multiple dudes named Mike, and that seems to throw people for a loop because they think that Mike is here every week, and he kind of is. It's just a different Mike.
There's a Mike here almost every week.
They're all the same.
They alternate a bit. But yeah, so this is I'll see if we can avoid calling you in from the bullpen next week. So
my wife will be happy.
We definitely want to keep her happy. That's a focus there. So Sam, don't want to keep you away from your beer any longer than we can help it. So I do appreciate you popping in here. You are that Space 4X expert amongst the Dragoons, whether you intended to be or not. That's sort of what you got tagged with, and we appreciate you. So thank you for taking some time and offering some thoughts on this, and especially for as much as you chime in the forum and help people through the game there as well. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, audience, we'll catch you next time on another episode of Mentioned in Dispatches.